The psychology behind why some homes feel good but most don't. Most people think a beautiful room comes down to expensive furniture or the right aesthetic. But the truth is, the rooms that stop you in your tracks are built on psychology. And once you understand the psychology, you can transform your home without buying a single new piece of furniture. Here is the first thing nobody tells you. You can have the perfect sofa, the marble coffee table, the expensive rug, and the room can still feel completely flat. Like a photo instead of a real space. And the reason this happens is something called the single plane trap. In most homes, everything sits in one narrow horizontal band. The sofa, the bed, the media console, all of it stacked in the same slice of space from the floor to about 2.5 feet up. When your eye scans a room like that, it has nowhere to go. Your brain collapses the entire space into a flat, static image. Designers call this the dollhouse effect, and it makes even large rooms feel small, shallow, and lifeless. The fix is to reclaim the vertical plane. Think of your room as a three-dimensional puzzle. You need visual weight at low heights, medium heights, and high up near the ceiling. When you do this, the eye starts moving in a W or M pattern, zigzagging up and down instead of scanning flat across the room. That movement alone makes the brain read the space as expansive and dynamic rather than compressed and static. Here is the easiest way to start. Most people hang their curtain rods directly above the window frame. Stop doing that. Mount your rod 2 to 4 inches below the ceiling line. The curtain will drape down over the wall space above the window, and your brain will assume the window extends much higher than it actually does. The room instantly looks taller, grander, and more expensive. That is a phantom architectural feature created with nothing but curtain placement. Another move is adding vertical lines, fluted wall panels, tall, slim bookcases, ribbed cabinets. These act like visual runways that pull the eye upward. The same reason vertical stripes make a person look taller. When the eye latches onto a vertical line, it accelerates upward, which pushes the perceived ceiling height up and makes the entire room feel airier. Let's tackle the second major design mistake, and it's one almost everyone makes instinctively. We're talking about the furniture against the wall habit. It feels logical, right? You want to maximize the open space in the middle of the room, so you push everything to the perimeter. But this single decision, more than almost any other, is what's secretly making your room feel cramped and lifeless. It's a classic case of good intentions leading to a flat, uninspired result. Here's what's happening on a subconscious level. When your largest piece of furniture, like your sofa, is pressed directly against the wall, there's no visual separation. Your eye reads the sofa and the wall as a single, continuous surface. Your brain, which is constantly trying to interpret depth, gets confused. It can't distinguish the layers, so it defaults to the simplest interpretation: a single, flat plane. This lack of depth is a primary reason why even large, well-lit rooms can feel strangely small and uninviting. But watch what happens when you make one tiny adjustment. Pull that sofa just a few inches away from the wall. 6 is a great starting point. Instantly, something magical shifts. A crisp shadow line appears behind it, creating a subtle but powerful visual cue. This simple act is called floating your furniture, and it's a non-negotiable technique used by every interior designer. That shadow is definitive proof to your brain that the sofa is a three-dimensional object, separate from the architecture behind it. Suddenly, your room has layers. It creates a distinct foreground, a middle ground, and a background, which is the exact same principle artists use to create the illusion of depth in a landscape painting. Without those layers, even a huge room feels like a shoebox. This simple gap allows the room to breathe, creating a more dynamic and sophisticated space. The third thing killing your room is the big overhead light, that single ceiling fixture that floods the whole room with uniform brightness. Uniform light is flat light. It bleaches out contrast, eliminates shadows, and turns your furniture into cardboard cutouts. Your brain uses shadows to calculate volume and distance. Take away the shadows and everything loses its mass. The fix is directional light. Position a floor lamp at a 45-degree angle beside a piece of furniture and watch what happens. The light catches the fabric weave and casts a soft shadow behind the chair. Suddenly, there is a layer of air between the furniture and the wall. The room gains depth that was never there before. When you aim directional light at a textured wall, it grazes across the surface, catching every peak and leaving every valley in shadow. The wall transforms from a flat boundary into a landscape the eye can explore. Always layer 3 types of light: the mood layer for general glow, the task layer for focused activities, and the accent layer for highlighting specific elements. When these sit at different heights, your corners stay alive and the whole room becomes an immersive 3-dimensional experience. Now here is a mistake that trips up even the most dedicated decorators: styling with even numbers. Symmetry feels logical. 2 vases, 4 frames, matching lamps on each side. But symmetry signals a catalog showroom, not a home. It tells your brain that order has been imposed from the outside rather than lived in from the inside. What you want instead is the vignette triangle. 1 tall element, 1 medium element, 1 flat element, clustered close together so they overlap slightly. A tall vase of flowers, a smaller ceramic jug beside it, and a low stack of books anchoring the base. The eye travels from the peak of the flowers down to the jug and rests on the books. That journey is what makes the surface interesting. This is the foundation of what designers call the 357 rule. Always style surfaces with 3, 5, or 7 items instead of even numbers. But even if you nail all of this, your room can still feel like it belongs to no one. This is the sanitization trap. It happens when you follow every rule so precisely, sticking to one aesthetic, matching every material, buying full sets from a catalog, that you accidentally edit out every trace of yourself. The room is technically correct, but emotionally hollow. And because nothing in it creates any friction, the eye just glides over everything without stopping. There is nothing to latch onto. Have you ever designed a room that follows all the rules but ends up feeling a little cold? Almost like a showroom, not a home? The solution isn't to throw the rules out the window. The fix is the 80-20 rule of curation. It's a simple principle that will fundamentally change how you see your space, giving you permission to create a home that is both beautiful and deeply personal. Let's break it down. 80% of your room can, and should, follow the established principles of good design. Think of this as your canvas. You're establishing a strong, serene baseline with clean lines, a cohesive color palette, and correct proportions. This is the foundation that keeps the space from feeling chaotic or cluttered. It's the visual calm that allows the eye to rest. But here's the magic. The remaining 20% should be gloriously, unapologetically uncorrected. This is where you let something real, something with a story, exist without trying to fix it to fit a perfect mold. This is your 20%. The chair that is slightly too big for its corner but is the best seat in the house. The weird, wonderful lamp you found at a flea market that makes you smile. The beaten-up leather armchair in a room full of sleek velvet. These aren't mistakes. They are your personal anchors. They are the heartbeats of your home, the pieces that tell your story and transform a well-designed room into a space that is truly, authentically yours. When you mix a modern sofa with an antique chest or a contemporary lamp with a vintage desk, you create a timeline inside your 4 walls. The brain has to reconcile different periods and different stories. That friction adds permanence and weight that a brand new showroom setup simply cannot replicate. At its core, your brain is a storyteller, constantly scanning your surroundings for proof of life. It's a primal instinct, a search for connection and safety. It looks for the subtle shadow that tells it an object has depth and dimension, that it's real and tangible. It seeks out the gentle imperfection, a frayed edge on a cushion, a stack of well-loved books, a slightly askew picture frame that tells it a human being, with all their beautiful complexities, lives here. When a room is too perfect, too smooth, too uniform, it's like a story with no plot. The brain feels nothing because there's no narrative to engage with. But when you intentionally introduce that visual friction we've talked about, when you break up the flat, monotonous planes with texture and light, and most importantly, when you leave space for that 20% that is authentically you, something magical happens. You stop chasing an abstract idea of a room that looks good in a magazine and start creating a sanctuary that feels like home. This is where design transcends decoration and becomes a form of self-expression. It's about crafting a space that not only supports your life, but reflects it. If this journey has sparked something in you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're building a community here dedicated to creating spaces with soul. I'd love to hear what your 20% looks like, so share one personal item that makes your space feel like home in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.